The emergency lights in the Galactic Council chamber flashed red for the first time in 200 years. Representatives from 47 species gathered in their floating seats, their various forms of agitation creating a symphony of clicks, hisses, and worried murmurs. At the center of the massive room, High Chancellor Vorn stood with his forearms spread wide, trying to calm the chaos. "Order! We must have order!" His voice boomed through the translation devices everyone wore. But there was no order to be found. The humans were gone. Ambassador Krell of the Morass pushed his bulk forward, his scales rattling with frustration. It has been 3 cycles. 3 cycles since the humans responded to any communication. Their embassy is empty. Their ships have left every station. Their colonies have sealed their borders. Someone explain this to me. The Arxian representative, a tall being made of crystalline structures that glowed soft blue, raised a delicate hand. Perhaps they are experiencing technical difficulties with their communication systems. A harsh laugh came from the Vex section. All of them? Across hundreds of worlds? At the exact same time? The insectoid Vex clicked her mandibles together. No, this was planned. This was deliberate. High Chancellor Vorn settled into his seat, his face showing the deep concern he felt. Let us review the final meeting, the one before they left. Perhaps we missed something important. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the council chamber from 3 weeks ago. The human section was there, with Ambassador Chen sitting quietly in her simple gray suit. Around her sat 5 other human representatives, all watching the proceedings with careful attention. The council was voting on the Frontier Defense Bill. Humans had proposed it 6 months earlier, asking for coordinated military support against the Devourer threat on the Rim worlds. On the display, species after species voted no. The reasons varied. Too expensive, not enough proof of danger, let the Rim worlds handle their own problems. Humans were exaggerating the threat to get more resources. Ambassador Chen's face never changed. She simply marked something on her datapad. The hologram continued. The next vote was about medical research funding. Humans had requested resources to study crimson fever, a disease affecting multiple species. Again, the votes came in negative. The Thress medical representative had even laughed, suggesting that human medicine was too primitive to waste council resources on. Chen marked her pad again. Then came the vote on cultural exchange programs. The Arxian government had blocked human art from being displayed in the Grand Gallery, calling it emotionally excessive and manipulative. The council agreed. Human music, human literature, human films, all were deemed too crude for sophisticated galactic society. For the first time in the hologram, Chen looked up. She stared directly at High Chancellor Vorn for a long moment. Then she stood, gathered her things, and walked out. Her fellow representatives followed. No speeches, no angry words, no threats or ultimatums. They simply left. The hologram ended. The council chamber sat in silence. That was it? Asked a Ferrix representative, her tentacles curling in confusion. They just walked away? We must have missed something, Vorn insisted. Play it again. Perhaps there were words we did not hear. They played it 17 times. Each time the result was the same. The humans voted for their proposals. The humans left. This makes no sense, said the Thress medical officer, his gills fluttering with agitation. Species do not simply abandon the council over a few votes. They argue. They demand recounts. They lobby for changes. They do not disappear into the void. Krell pulled up his datapad, his claws moving quickly across the screen. I have been tracking human activity for the past month. The changes started slowly, so no one noticed. Human trade ships began returning to their space. Human students withdrew from universities. Human workers left their jobs on foreign worlds. Human military advisors came home. Every single day, a few more left, then a few more, then a few more. Until 3 weeks ago, when the last humans stepped through the Sol system barrier and sealed it behind them. Sealed it? The Vex representative leaned forward. What do you mean, sealed? I mean they have erected a defense perimeter around their entire territory. Hundreds of stations, thousands of weapon platforms, all networked together. Any ship that approaches gets a single automated message. Access denied. Do not approach. Then the weapon systems lock on. 3 ships have tried to force their way through. All 3 were destroyed in seconds. The chamber erupted in voices again. Some angry, some confused, some genuinely afraid. An older Arxian named Thelos rose from his seat. He had been on the council for 50 years and rarely spoke. When he did, everyone listened. My friends, he said quietly, and the room fell silent. I fear we have made a terrible mistake, one we may not be able to fix. What mistake? Vorn demanded. We simply voted according to our needs and interests, as we always do. Yes, Thelos agreed, and in doing so, we forgot something important about the humans. He pulled up his own display, showing statistics that made several representatives gasp. The frontier defense bill that we rejected. 70% of the soldiers fighting on the rim were human. The medical research we called primitive. Humans have published more breakthrough treatments in the last decade than all other species combined. The art we banned? Cultural analysis shows that 68% of the galaxy's most popular entertainment was created by humans or built on human concepts. He let that sink in before continuing. For 30 years, humans have been the youngest members of this council. We treated them as children. We dismissed their ideas. We took credit for their innovations. We mocked their emotions and their passions, and they tolerated it. They smiled and tried again. They worked harder to prove themselves. They gave and gave and gave. And now? Asked a small voice from the back. Thelos looked around the chamber, his crystalline eyes reflecting the emergency lights. Now they have nothing left to give us. Because we taught them that giving was pointless. We taught them that their contributions were worthless. We taught them that no matter what they did, no matter how hard they tried, we would never see them as equals. But they never complained, the Vex representative protested. They never expressed anger or dissatisfaction. Did we ever ask? Thelos said softly. Did anyone in this chamber ever ask Ambassador Chen how she felt? Did we notice when she stopped smiling? Did we wonder why fewer humans attended council social events each year? Did we care that human representatives looked more tired and sad with each passing month? The silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. Krell stood again, his massive form shaking slightly. I have begun compiling a document. I am calling it The Reckoning. It lists every human proposal we rejected, every human achievement we credited to others, every human sacrifice we ignored. So far, it is 10,000 pages long, and I am only up to year 23 of their membership. High Chancellor Vorn felt something he had not experienced in decades. Genuine shame. What do we do? He asked, his voice small. I do not know, Thelos admitted, but I suspect that for the first time in this council's long history, we will have to live with the consequences of our actions. The humans are not coming back, and we will have to learn to survive without them. In the empty human embassy, a single light still blinked on Ambassador Chen's abandoned desk. It was her communication console, showing 847 unread messages from council members. Messages of confusion, of questions, of demands to explain. She would never read them. None of the humans would. They had said all they needed to say by saying nothing at all. 3 months after the humans left, the cracks began to show. The first sign came from the Vex manufacturing worlds. Their factories, which had run perfectly for 20 years, started having problems. Production lines stopped. Quality control failed. Complex systems broke down in ways that made no sense. What is happening? The Vex factory coordinator demanded, staring at the fifth production line to fail that week. These systems were perfect yesterday. A junior engineer looked up from her diagnostic pad, her mandibles clicking nervously. I found something. The efficiency protocols running our entire operation, they were written by humans, all of them. We thought they were Vex innovations, but she pulled up the code. Hidden in the comments, barely visible, were human names and Earth dates. But the patents list Vex creators, the coordinator protested. Yes, but look at the actual coding style, the problem-solving approaches, the elegant solutions to impossible problems. The engineer highlighted section after section. This is all human work. We just put our names on it. The coordinator felt her insides go cold. Can we maintain it without them? I do not know. I am trying to understand what this section does, and I have been studying it for 6 hours. Whoever wrote this was a genius, and they are gone. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. On the Thres medical stations, Dr. Velis stood in front of a holographic display showing the crimson fever pathogen. His team had been trying to develop a cure for 5 years with no success. But something had been nagging at him since the humans left. A memory of a casual conversation at a medical conference. Computer, he said slowly. Search human medical databases. Public records only. Search for crimson fever research. The results made him sit down heavily. Pages and pages of research. Breakthrough discoveries. And then, 3 years ago, a paper published in a small human medical journal. The title was simple. Complete Cure Protocols for Crimson Fever Pathogen. Why did we not see this? Velis whispered. His assistant came over, reading the paper. Because we did not look. The paper was submitted to the Council Medical Review Board. See, there is the submission record. It was rejected without reading. The reason listed is insufficient credentials from primitive medical source. Velis pulled up the author's profile. Dr. Sarah Chen, human physician, 20 years of experience, 15 breakthrough papers in xenobiology. She had the cure 3 years ago, and he could not finish the sentence. How many died of crimson fever in the last 3 years? His assistant asked quietly. Velis checked the records. 400,000. Across 7 species. They sat in silence, looking at the cure they had dismissed because it came from humans. On the entertainment networks, the crisis was different, but just as severe. The most popular shows were ending. Not because they were cancelled, but because they could not continue. I do not understand, said Pix, the Arxian producer of Stars of Glory, the galaxy's highest-rated drama. Why can our writers not match the quality of the previous seasons? His head writer, a morass named Krell, threw his datapad down in frustration. Because we did not write those seasons. Look at this. He pulled up the credits. These names, all the species listed as writers, I contacted them. Half do not exist. The other half were consultants who met once with the actual writers and took credit for the work. Who were the actual writers? Humans. All of them. They wrote 70% of our show. They created the characters everyone loves. They plotted the stories that won us awards. They made us famous, and we paid them barely anything while listing other species as the creators. Krell looked physically ill. We stole from them, for years, and called it collaboration. Pix checked other shows. The pattern was everywhere. The galaxy's music, 40% human compositions, credited to others. The best-selling novels, human stories, filed off and resold. The games everyone played, human designs, stolen through consultations that stripped their creators' names away. What do we do? Pix asked. Nothing we can do, Krell said bitterly. They are gone, and they took their creativity with them. We are left with what we always had, mediocrity dressed up in stolen brilliance. But the worst realization came from the military front. General Thros stood in the war room, staring at the map of the Rim territories. In 3 months, they had lost 80 systems to the Devourer fleets. 80 systems that had been secure for decades. "Explain this to me," he demanded of his staff. "We have more ships than before, more soldiers, better weapons. Why are we losing?" A young tactical officer named Stellix spoke up. "Because we do not know how to fight, General." "What nonsense is this? I have fought in 20 campaigns." "Yes, sir, but tell me, who trained you?" Thros paused. "Commander Sarah Washington, human tactical instructor." "And you, Lieutenant?" Stellix pointed at another officer. "Captain James Rodriguez, human. And you?" "Colonel Amira Hassan, human." Stellix pulled up the military records. 75% of our senior officers were trained by humans. 90% of our tactical doctrine was written by humans. Every major victory in the last 30 years had human commanders leading the strategy, even if we gave credit to others. The defense of Korax? Human battle plan. The siege of Velmoth? Human tactics. The liberation of the Outer Rings? Entirely planned and executed by human forces, while Council media praised our brave alien warriors. General Frost looked at the map again. "The Devourers. Why are they advancing now?" "Because humans are not fighting them anymore," Stellix said simply. "For 30 years, humans made up 15% of our forces, but took 70% of casualties. They volunteered for the most dangerous missions. They held the line, while others retreated. They died so that we could live. And we thanked them by dismissing their defense proposals and cutting their military funding." "They were protecting us," Thros said, the realization hitting him. "We thought we were protecting the galaxy, but it was always them." On the Council station, Ambassador Krell continued his work on the Reckoning. Each day brought new discoveries of human contributions that had been ignored, stolen, or credited to others. The faster-than-light communication protocols? Human innovation. The food synthesizers on every ship? Human design. The universal translator everyone used? Built on human linguistic research. The cure for wasting disease? Human discovery. The peace treaty with the Corps? Negotiated by human diplomats, while council members took credit. Every page Krell wrote felt heavier than the last. High Chancellor Vorn came to visit him one evening. "How much more is there?" Vorn asked, looking at the growing document. "I have finished 30 years of records," Krell said tiredly. "The document is now 50,000 pages. And Vorn," he looked up at the High Chancellor, "it gets worse the further back I go. In their early years they were so eager to help, so hopeful. They gave everything freely, believing we would recognize their value eventually. And we never did. No, we taught them that generosity was weakness, that kindness was foolishness, that no matter what they contributed, we would always see them as lesser." Krell added another entry to his document. "They did not leave because of one vote. They left because of 10,000 cuts. Because every day we told them they did not matter. Until finally, they believed us and stopped trying to prove otherwise." Vorn sat down heavily. "Can we bring them back? Would you come back if you had given everything and received nothing but contempt in return?" The High Chancellor had no answer. Across the galaxy, species were discovering the same painful truth. The humans had not been the junior members of galactic civilization. They had been its heart, its innovation, its courage, and its conscience. And everyone had been too blind with arrogance to see it. Now they saw clearly. But clarity came too late, and the price of their blindness was being counted in lives, in failures, in losses that could never be recovered. The humans had not taken anything when they left. They had simply stopped giving. And the galaxy was learning that it had nothing left without their gifts. 6 months after the withdrawal, the galaxy stopped pretending it was fine. Dr. Velis sat beside the hospital bed of a young Thress child named Mira. She was dying of crimson fever. The cure sat on his datapad, the human research he had found too late, but he could not make it work. "I do not understand these synthesis procedures," he admitted to her parents. "The humans wrote this for multi-species medical teams to use together, but without their expertise to guide us, I cannot." Mira's mother touched his hand gently. "It is not your fault, doctor." But it was. He had laughed at human medicine. He had called it primitive. He had voted against their research funding. And now this child would die because of his arrogance. "May I tell you something?" he asked the parents. They nodded. 3 years ago, a human doctor came to me. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen. She wanted to show me her crimson fever research. I told her I was too busy. I suggested she study our methods instead of wasting time on her primitive human approaches. He looked at little Mira, her breathing shallow and weak. She had the cure in her hands. She was trying to give it to me, and I sent her away. Mira's father was quiet for a long moment. "What happened to Dr. Chen?" "She went home, back to Earth. I looked her up. She is still practicing medicine there, still saving lives, human lives. She gave up on us." Velis felt wetness on his face, the Thres equivalent of tears. "She tried to save us, and we were too proud to let her." Similar scenes played out across every hospital in the galaxy. Diseases the humans had cured could not be cured by anyone else. Medical techniques the humans had perfected died with their departure. Thousands suffered. Thousands more died. And the medical community finally understood what they had lost. On the Arxian homeworld, something unexpected happened. The government had banned human art 3 years ago, removing it from galleries and libraries. But someone leaked the archives onto the public networks. Within days, millions of Arxians were discovering human music for the first time. Really discovering it, not just hearing it in the background. A teenager named Ixis downloaded a human song called Imagine by an artist named John Lennon. She listened to it alone in her room, and for the first time in her life, she cried. Not from sadness, but from the sheer beauty of imagining a better world. "Why was this banned?" she asked her parents. "The council said it was too emotional," her father explained. "They said it would manipulate people's feelings." Ixis listened to the song again. "But that is what art is supposed to do. Make you feel, make you think, make you want to be better." She looked at her parents. What else did they keep from us? Humans had written books about love that made people sob. They had painted images of hope that stirred something deep in the soul. They had composed music that made even the most logical species feel wonder. They had created films about sacrifice, courage, and redemption that changed how people saw the universe. For years, this art had been hidden away, deemed too dangerous because it made people feel too much. Now people were feeling it all at once, and it hurt. "They were showing us who we could be," Ixis said to her friends, as they watched a human film about a man who saved lives by treating everyone with dignity. "And we told them to stop because it made us uncomfortable to see our own failures." Riots broke out on the Arxian homeworld. Not violent ones, but millions of people gathering in peaceful protest. They demanded answers. Why had their government hidden such beauty from them? Why had they suppressed the art that made the galaxy more than just a collection of species sharing space? The Arxian Council had no good answers. They resigned in shame. On the military front, the situation grew desperate. The Devourer fleets had pushed deep into Council space, taking system after system. The battle for Corax Prime was the breaking point. 30,000 Council soldiers faced a Devourer force half their size. The Council should have won easily. They were slaughtered. General Thros stood in the ruins of the command center, looking at the casualty reports. 23,000 dead, 7,000 wounded. The Devourers lost maybe 300. "How?" he whispered. "How did this happen?" Stelix, the young officer who had tried to warn him, pulled up the battle analysis. "Watch, General. Watch how they fought." The hologram showed Council forces charging bravely into battle, then stopping, looking around for orders, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They are waiting for human commanders, Stelix said. They have been trained to follow human tactical decisions for so long that they do not know how to think for themselves in combat. But we train them. We train them to follow procedures. Humans train them to adapt, to think, to care about the soldiers beside them. Stelix pulled up old training footage of human instructors. A woman named Commander Washington was addressing a group of recruits. "You are not tools," she said in the video. "You are people, with families, dreams, and lives worth protecting. So when you fight smart. You watch out for each other. You do not throw lives away for glory. You survive, complete the mission, and go home to the people who love you. That is what warriors do." The video showed her learning every soldier's name, training them, not just to fight, but to value life, their own and others. "The Devourers do not hesitate," Stelix continued. "They do not value individual lives. They attack in swarms, accepting losses, because they have no one teaching them that each life matters. We used to beat them because humans taught us to fight smart and to care about our people. Now we just charge in bravely and die." General Thross thought about all the human tactical officers who had served under him, how they always knew their soldiers' names, how they visited wounded troops in hospitals, how they wrote personal letters to the families of the fallen. He had thought it was weakness, emotional inefficiency. Now he realized it was strength. When soldiers knew their commander valued them, they fought harder, not from fear, but from love. "We are losing this war," he said quietly. "We are." Back at the council chambers, Ambassador Krell finally finished the reckoning. The document was now 100,000 pages long. Every human contribution, every theft, every dismissal, every moment of casual cruelty over 30 years. He presented it to the full council in a somber session. "I compiled this," he said, his voice heavy with grief, "because we needed to see what we did. We needed to face it, all of it." He did not read from it. He did not need to. The summary on the first page was enough. Humans gave us 12,847 technological innovations we claimed as our own. They wrote 67% of our entertainment. They provided 88% of our medical breakthroughs. They fought 70% of our battles. They asked for nothing but respect. We gave them contempt. They offered friendship. We gave them theft. They showed us compassion. We gave them mockery. And when they had given everything, when there was nothing left to take, we still voted to deny them basic recognition. So they left, and now we mourn. But we do not mourn their absence. We mourn who we could have been if we had let them teach us to be better. The council chamber was silent for a long time. Then the Thress medical representative stood. He was crying openly. "I killed patients because I was too arrogant to learn from humans. That is my confession. I wear this shame until I die." One by one, others stood, confessing their own failures, their own theft, their own blindness. The Arxian representative spoke last. "We banned their art because it showed us what we lacked. Passion, soul, the courage to feel deeply. We were jealous, and we called it protecting our culture." High Chancellor Vorn looked around at his council. For the first time in 200 years, he saw species from across the galaxy united in a single emotion: grief. Not for the loss of human labor or innovation or protection, but for the loss of what the humans had been trying to teach them all along. That civilization was not about power or efficiency or logic. It was about connection, compassion, the courage to care about each other. The humans had shown them that truth every day for 30 years, and the galaxy had rejected it until it was too late to get it back. Young Ixis the Arxian sat in her room, listening to human music and reading human poetry. She was part of a growing movement across the galaxy, young people who had never known humans personally, but who grieved their absence. They called themselves the students of Earth. They studied human philosophy. They practiced human arts. They tried to learn the lessons their governments had refused to teach. "We cannot bring them back," Ixis said in a message that went viral across the galactic networks. "But we can become what they tried to help us be. We can learn. We can change. We can build the galaxy they believed in, even if they are not here to see it." It was a beautiful sentiment. But in the quiet moments, Ixis wondered, if they had listened 30 years ago, how much better would the galaxy be now? How many would still be alive? How much more could they have become? The humans had given them everything, and the galaxy had learned their value only by losing them. Some lessons, it seemed, could only be learned through loss, and this lesson hurt more than any war ever could. 1 year after the withdrawal, the Galactic Council made its first official attempt to contact humanity. High Chancellor Vorn led a delegation of 20 representatives to the Sol System barrier. They came in an unarmed diplomatic vessel, broadcasting peace on every frequency. They brought gifts, precious metals, rare resources, technology from across the galaxy. As they approached the glowing network of defense stations that surrounded human space, an automated message played. "Access denied. Do not approach. Turn back immediately." The voice was flat, emotionless, computer-generated, not even a real person. Vorn activated the communication system. "This is High Chancellor Vorn of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to speak with human representatives. We wish to apologize and make amends for our past actions." Silence. "Please," Vorn continued. "We understand we made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. We want to make things right. Just speak with us." The defense station's weapons powered up, targeting the diplomatic vessel. "We are leaving," Vorn said quickly, and the ship reversed course. The weapons powered down. The message repeated. "Access denied. Do not approach. Turn back immediately." They had traveled 3 weeks to reach this point. They returned with nothing, not even the dignity of a personal rejection. Back at the council, frustration grew. Some members wanted to send military ships to force their way through. General Thros shut that idea down immediately. "Did you see those weapons?" he asked the council. "I analyzed them during our retreat. Each station has enough firepower to destroy a battlecruiser. And there are hundreds of stations, all networked. If we attacked, we would lose every ship we sent. And even if we somehow won, what then? We force humans to talk to us at gunpoint? So we do nothing?" demanded the Vex representative. "We respect their choice," Thros said firmly, "just as we should have done for 30 years. The council tried other approaches. They sent messages offering humans positions of power, council seats, military commands, scientific research grants with unlimited funding. They offered entire systems as human territory, no strings attached. Every message went unanswered. They made public broadcasts admitting their theft of human innovations. They declassified documents showing how they had suppressed human achievements. They released the reckoning to every news network in the galaxy. "We were wrong," Vorn said in a galaxy-wide address. "We stole from humanity. We dismissed them. We took credit for their work. We treated them with contempt when they deserved our respect. We are sorry. Please, come back. We will do better." The humans said nothing. Ambassador Krell tried a different approach. He began sending personal messages to humans he had worked with over the years. Scientists, artists, diplomats, people he had called colleagues, even friends. "This is Krell. I know I do not deserve a response, but I want you to know that I am sorry. I did not see your value until you were gone. That is my failure, not yours. I hope you are well. I hope Earth is treating you with the respect we never did. He sent hundreds of these messages over several months. Only one ever received a response. It came from Dr. Sarah Chen, the human medical researcher who had tried to share her crimson fever cure years ago. Ambassador Krell, I remember you. You were always kind to me, even when others were not. I appreciate your apology. But you need to understand something. We did not leave because we were angry. We left because we were tired. Tired of fighting to be heard. Tired of watching our work stolen. Tired of giving everything and receiving nothing. We left to protect ourselves. I hope the galaxy learns from this. But we will not be the teachers anymore. We are done. Please do not contact me again. I wish you well. Krell read the message 100 times. Each time the pain grew worse. She had wished him well. Even after everything, she held no hatred. She was just done. That hurt more than anger ever could. Meanwhile, the galaxy continued to fall apart. The Devourer War reached a critical point. They had pushed into the mid-rim, threatening core worlds. Trillions of lives were at risk. The Council military, despite their best efforts, could not hold the line. General Thros stood before the Council with a grim assessment. We are losing badly. In 3 months, maybe 4, the Devourers will break through to core space. He did not need to finish. What do we need to win? Vorn asked. A miracle, or humans. Thros pulled up tactical displays. Look at this. This is how humans fought. They used something they called combined arms coordination. Different unit types supporting each other, adapting in real time to enemy actions. We are still learning to do this. Humans were born knowing it. Born knowing it? A Vex representative asked skeptically. Not literally. But their evolution made them natural persistence hunters. They coordinate instinctively. They adapt on the fly. They fight together in ways we have to consciously learn. And more than that, Thros paused, struggling with emotion. They fight for each other, not for glory or orders, for love, because they cannot stand to see their companions hurt. He pulled up footage from the last major human battle before they left. A human soldier named Marcus threw himself on an explosive device to save his squad. The video showed his final words. Get out of here. Tell my family I love them. We do not have that, Thros said quietly. We have bravery, we have training, but we do not have whatever made that human choose his squad over his own life without hesitation. A young Ferrix named Stellix stood up. She had been studying on Earth years ago, before the withdrawal. May I speak, General? Go ahead. That quality you are describing, humans call it different things. Love, loyalty, brotherhood. But it all comes from the same place. They believe every individual life has infinite value. So when Marcus died for his squad, he was not throwing his life away. He was multiplying it. He became 6 people instead of 1. That is how they think. The Council sat in stunned silence. How do we learn that? Someone asked. I do not know if we can, Stellix admitted. Humans tried to teach us for 30 years. We called it weakness. The Council tried one more desperate approach. They sent Stellix to the Sol system barrier. She was young. She had studied on Earth, and she had publicly defended humans when the Council was mocking them. She went alone in a tiny shuttle, unarmed, broadcasting on every frequency. My name is Stellix. I studied at Harvard University for 3 years. I lived with a human family, the Johnsons. They treated me like their own daughter. When I graduated, Mrs. Johnson cried. She hugged me and said she was proud of me. No one had ever said that to me before. She drifted closer to the barrier. The weapons tracked her, but did not fire. I voted against my own government when they wanted to ban human art. I fought with my family when they called humans primitive. I lost friends because I defended you. Not because I wanted something from you, but because you taught me what it means to care about people just because they exist. Still, no response. I am not here to ask you to come back. I know you will not. I am here to say thank you. For teaching me. For being patient with a scared student far from home. For showing me that civilization is built on compassion, not just technology. Her voice broke. The Johnsons? I never told them how much they meant to me. I was too proud. Too convinced that showing emotion was weakness. I went home without saying goodbye properly. And now I cannot tell them, so I am telling you, all of you, in case they can hear somehow. Thank you. For everything. I am sorry we were not better. She waited for an hour. Then 2. Then 3. Finally she turned her shuttle around and began the long journey home. Just as she reached the edge of the system, her communication console blinked. One message, text only. We heard you, Stellix. Emily Johnson says she is proud of you too. She always was. Take care of yourself. Live well. Stellix broke down crying. They had listened. Someone had heard her. But that was all. One message to one person who had earned it. The rest of the galaxy would receive nothing. Back on the council station, Vorn gathered his advisors. What else can we do? Nothing, Krell said flatly. They are not negotiating. This is not a diplomatic dispute we can solve with concessions. They have moved on. We are their past. They are building a future that does not include us. But the war? We will have to win it ourselves, or lose it ourselves. Those are our options. The Arxian representative, Felos, spoke up. Perhaps that is the final lesson. We cannot expect humans to save us from every problem. We must learn to save ourselves. We do not have their instincts, their coordination, their compassion, Felos finished. So we must build it, teach it, practice it until it becomes our instinct too. It was a good plan, a noble plan, but it would take generations to achieve what humans had naturally, and the Devourers were not going to wait generations. Young Ixis, the Arxian teenager who had started the Students of Earth movement, published a manifesto that went viral. The humans are not coming back. Stop asking them to. Stop waiting for them to save us. They gave us 30 years of lessons. They showed us how to be better. We ignored them. Now we have to learn those lessons the hard way, through failure, through loss, through pain. Maybe that is what we needed all along. Maybe we had to lose them to finally understand what they were trying to teach. It is too late to thank them, but it is not too late to become what they believed we could be. Millions joined her movement, young people across the galaxy who wanted to learn human values, human arts, human ways of thinking. But they were learning from recordings and books and memories, not from living teachers who could correct their mistakes and guide them. It was like trying to learn to paint by reading about colors. The council knew the truth now, knew it deep in their cores. The humans were gone, really gone, not as a negotiating tactic, not as a punishment. They had simply closed a door on a chapter of their lives that brought them nothing but pain, and that door was never opening again. The galaxy would have to face its future alone, without the humans who had carried them through so many challenges, without the innovation that had made them prosper, without the compassion that had made them better. The Council had wanted the humans to be junior partners, following where the galaxy led. They learned too late that the humans had been leading all along, and now there was no one left to follow. 10 years after the withdrawal, Ambassador Krell stood at the edge of a ruined hospital on Rim Station 7. The building had been beautiful once, a gleaming structure of glass and hope. Humans had built it. Humans had staffed it. Humans had saved thousands of lives within its walls. Now it was rubble and memories. The Devourer War had finally ended 6 months ago. Not with victory, but with exhaustion. Both sides had fought to a standstill, bleeding and broken. The treaty line ran through what used to be prosperous systems. Now they were graveyards. Krell was old now. His scales had lost their luster. His movements were slow. But he came to this place once every year, on the anniversary of the human departure. He came to remember, and to keep a promise. In the ruins he found what he was looking for, a small plaque near what had been the entrance. The metal was scorched and dented, but the words were still readable. RIM Station 7 Medical Center. Built by humanity, for all people, because every life matters. Krell pulled out a small hammer and a new plaque he had commissioned. Carefully, despite his shaking hands, he mounted it beside the old one. This one read, "Here humanity healed us, defended us, taught us, and loved us. We called them primitive. They called us friends. We took everything they offered and demanded more. They asked only for respect. When we had taken all we could, humanity gave us one final gift. They taught us what absence feels like. May we never forget what we mourned too late to save." He stepped back, looking at both plaques. Then he did something he had done every year for a decade. He spoke to the humans who would never hear him. "It has been 10 years. I hope you are well. I hope Earth is everything you needed it to be." His voice cracked. "We are learning. Painfully. But we are learning." The galaxy had changed in 10 years. Changed in ways both terrible and hopeful. The Devourer War had cost billions of lives. Without human tactical doctrine, without human coordination, the Council forces had to learn through devastating trial and error. Every lesson was paid for in blood. But they learned. General Thross, now retired, had spent his final years in service rewriting military doctrine. Not stealing from human methods, but trying to understand the philosophy behind them. Humans fought as if every soldier was their family, he wrote in his final treatise. We must learn to do the same, not because it is efficient, though it is, but because it is right. The new generation of officers studied his work religiously. They learned their soldiers' names. They visited the wounded. They wrote letters to families. It was awkward at first, mechanical, but over time, something changed. Soldiers who felt valued fought smarter. Units that cared about each other coordinated better. They would never match human instinct, but they were trying, and trying mattered. In the medical field, Dr. Velis had spent 10 years training a new generation of physicians. His first lesson to every student was always the same. "Look at this," he would say, showing them the crimson fever cure from Dr. Sarah Chen. "A human doctor handed me this cure. I refused it. My pride killed 400,000 people. Remember that number. Let it haunt you as it haunts me. Because the moment you think you know everything, the moment you dismiss someone else's knowledge, people die." Medical schools across the galaxy adopted his approach. They studied human research with proper respect now. They built on it honestly, giving credit where it belonged. They could not bring back those who died from curable diseases, but they made sure others would not die the same way. Medicine advanced, slowly, without human innovation to accelerate it. But it advanced honestly. The arts had transformed most dramatically. The Students of Earth movement, started by young Ixis, had grown into billions of members across hundreds of species. They studied human creativity, not to copy it, but to understand the courage it took to feel deeply and express those feelings. Ixis herself was now a professor of comparative philosophy at the Arxian Academy. She taught a course called The Ethics of Emotion. Humans understood something we had forgotten, she told her students. Logic and reason are tools for understanding the universe. But compassion and empathy are tools for understanding each other. Both are necessary. Neither is sufficient alone. Her students, young people who had never met a human, created art that tried to bridge the gap between logic and emotion. It was not human art. It could never be. But it was honest art. Art that came from genuine feeling rather than theft or imitation. The galactic entertainment networks were different now too. Less spectacular perhaps, but more real. Species told their own stories in their own voices. Some were clumsy, some were beautiful. All were authentic. The galaxy was learning to create rather than take. But there was still a hole, an absence that could not be filled. High Chancellor Vorn had served 10 years past retirement, trying to rebuild what had been broken. Finally, at the age of 117, he gave his final address to the Council. When I became High Chancellor, I thought the Council was the center of civilization. I thought our wisdom guided the galaxy. He looked around at the representatives, most of them new faces. I was wrong. The Council was an administrative body. Humanity was the heart. We cut out the heart and wondered why everything died. He pulled up a holographic image. The Sol system barrier, still glowing, still impenetrable, still silent. They are still there, still thriving if the sensor readings we get through the barrier are accurate. They have not destroyed themselves. They have not come crawling back begging to rejoin us. They simply moved on, built their own future, one that does not need us. A young Vex representative raised a claw. Do you think they will ever return, Chancellor? Vorn was quiet for a long moment. No, I think we taught them a lesson we did not mean to teach. We taught them that they are stronger without us. And we cannot be angry about that, because it is true. For 30 years, we held them back, stole from them, exhausted them. They only started truly thriving once they left us behind. So what do? We build the galaxy they believed in, Vorn said simply. Not for them, they are gone, but for ourselves, because trying to become what they saw in us is the only way to honor what they gave. He stepped down from his position that day. A Ferrix named Stellix, the same young officer who had once studied on Earth, was elected to replace him. The first thing she did was establish the Human Heritage Archive. We will preserve every human contribution, she announced. Not hidden away, but celebrated. Every innovation will credit its human creators. Every stolen achievement will be corrected in the historical record. Future generations will know what humanity did for us, and they will know how we failed them. The archive became the most visited site in the galaxy. Billions came to see what the humans had built, created, and sacrificed. Many wept. On the 10th anniversary of the Withdrawal, the Council held a memorial service. Every member wore gray, the color of the suits human ambassadors had worn. Every speech was kept short and honest. Krell, ancient now, and barely able to stand, gave the final speech. I knew humans, worked with them, called some of them friends, though I did not earn that title. They were not perfect. They had flaws and made mistakes, but they had something we lacked. They cared, deeply, passionately, sometimes foolishly. They cared about strangers, about principles, about making things better even when it cost them. He looked out at the assembly. The question we must ask is not, will they come back? They will not. The question is, what will we do with the time they gave us? They spent 30 years trying to teach us. Those lessons are still here, in their research, their art, their sacrifice. We can ignore those lessons again, or we can finally learn them. He sat down heavily. The chamber was silent except for the sound of grief from dozens of species. After the ceremony, Stellix traveled to Rim Station 7. She found Krell's memorial plaque among the ruins. She read it slowly, touching the scorched metal of the old human plaque beside it. They taught us what absence feels like, she whispered. And it feels like grief that never ends. But there was something else growing in that grief. Something the students of Earth had been cultivating for 10 years. Not hope that humans would return, but determination to become worthy of the sacrifice humans had made. Young people across the galaxy studied human ethics, human art, human science. They did not try to become human. They tried to learn what humans had tried to teach, that progress without compassion was just sophisticated cruelty. That civilization was measured not by its power, but by how it treated the powerless. That every individual life had infinite worth. It was slow, painful, incomplete, but it was real. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen sat in her garden, now in her 60s. She had not thought about the council in years. She tended her tomatoes, played with her grandchildren, and continued her medical research. Her life was quiet, peaceful, full. Sometimes, late at night, she wondered if the galaxy had learned anything. If her sacrifice, all their sacrifices, had mattered. She would never know. The barriers stayed up. Humanity had moved on. But in the quantum foam of space, sometimes signals leaked through. Fragments of transmissions. She never tried to listen, but her husband, who worked in communications, sometimes told her what he heard. "They are building that medical center network you proposed," he said one evening. "They are calling it the Chen Initiative." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "That is nice," she said finally. "I hope it helps people. Does it bother you that they are using your name now when they refused to listen then?" "No," she said honestly. "I am glad they are learning. I just wish," she trailed off. "Wish what?" "I wish they had learned while we were still there to see it, while we still cared enough to want to be part of it." That was the tragedy, really. Not that the galaxy was learning, but that they were learning too late for it to matter to the teachers who had tried so hard. The barrier around human space glowed softly in the darkness of space. Behind it, humanity thrived. They built wonders without sharing them. They solved problems without offering solutions. They created beauty without displaying it. They had turned inward, healing from wounds that had taken 30 years to inflict. Maybe one day, in a century or 3, they would open the barrier. Maybe they would rejoin galactic civilization. Or maybe they would not. Either way, the galaxy would continue. Smaller, sadder, wiser. Forever marked by the absence of the species that had cared too much, gave too freely, and finally learned to protect themselves by walking away. In the ruins of Rim Station 7, Krell's memorial plaque caught the light of the setting sun. The words glowed like a promise and a warning. May we never forget what we mourned too late to save. And across the galaxy, billions of voices whispered the same prayer. We remember, we learned, we are trying to be better. The humans would never hear those prayers, but perhaps that was the final lesson. Do not be good for recognition. Do not be kind for reward. Be worthy because it is right, even if no one is watching. Even if the ones you wanted to please are gone forever. That was what humanity had been trying to teach all along. And finally, 10 years too late, the galaxy began to understand.